Hello, this is Ricardo Diaz once again with CU Immigration Forum TV, bringing you the latest news and what's best in immigration across the nation and in the CU area. Thank you very much for listening and being with us as we discuss important topics related to immigration. And on this particular day, we will be continuing a discussion on immigrant-friendly communities. And for that, we have Billy Lyman to accompany us once again and tell us about his research and how that might make CU more friendly. I'd like to remind you, CU Immigration Forum is a group of citizens, individuals, residents of the area that range from students to clergy to professors to regular community members, unions. We have a little bit of everyone at the CU Immigration Forum, and you can read more about us at cuimmigration.org. And so today, I'd like to welcome you, Billy, once again.
Thank you, Ricardo, for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you and continue on this series on this very interesting course. Can you tell us about how this got started through the course, and then we'll get to the specifics of your topic today.
Sure. So I guess Stacy's had this course in the works. Stacy Harwood is our professor.
Dr. Harwood, yeah.
Yes, at the university. She's had this course in the works for about a year now. She told me about it in the fall, and immediately once she started telling me about it, I became interested, and she told me it was going to be a very community-based course. She had a project going, she had the project going with you guys for doing immigrant-friendly community. With CU Immigration Forum doing the immigrant-friendly strategies, looking at those. And it sounded like something I really wanted to be a part of.
And so the course name is?
This course name is Local Policy and Immigration.
Okay, so it's very appropriate.
It's a graduate level. Yeah, it's a graduate level course offered through the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at the university.
So I think she offers it every other year. But that may be due also to demand or to...
Yeah, she does offer it every other year. She did change it this year a little bit. I think in past years it had been more looking at national and state level immigration policy. This year she's really tried to get down to the local level, looking at how different cities across the United States treat their immigrant communities and how they try and bring them into the planning process.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's using examples from around the country, and also she's sprinkled in some examples from Canada and I believe was the Netherlands as well.
Okay. So you've done some history, some context and framing work, and then I don't remember when we had our first contact, but then the group of students started developing specialties. Can you tell me the range of those, and then what you were most interested in?
Sure. Yeah, there was about 5 projects, ranging all the way from a broad-scale immigrant voting rights campaign. My colleague Jessica Kurzman did that topic, all the way until the the bricks and mortar centers that I'm doing, immigrant welcome centers, looking at immigrant economic opportunity, trying to drive economic integration of immigrants. We spoke to Rebecca about that. And the other ones were anti-hate campaigns, looked at by Liz Corrado, and the Promotoras initiatives looked at by Deirdre. So it really kind of ran the gamut of the immigration policy, or immigration strategies for trying to integrate immigrants into the local community once they arrive here in the United States.
Yeah.
So.
And the audience should know that we have done programs in each one of those topic areas, and so they become segments of CU Immigration TV that we hope you will also watch. You can find them right here at the website or through the YouTube channel that UPTV also puts out. So tell us a little bit, Billy, as to what part you concentrated on, and we'll present some slides as we go along as you need them or as you refer to them. Okay?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I looked at the immigrant welcome centers strategy. It's similar to the immigrant economic initiative strategy, trying to immigrate them economically, but this kind of looks at the more social aspects of immigration, trying to just physically get them accustomed to the community and get them on their feet once they arrive.
Okay. So we're looking at bricks and mortar landing spots.
Right, right, exactly. So both of the two examples I looked at, they're both offices. They both have offices that they're based out of. And the one example
Before I have a question before you tell us about the specifics of each center. Go over with us about the needs. Why would you need a center? Immigrants have all kinds of needs, yes, but what drives and justification for a center for anyone?
Sure. I mean, I think the immigrants who arrive have really unique needs that they aren't necessarily familiar with how to get those needs met. So a lot of the centers I looked at have to do with service referral, matching the immigrants with the services that they are looking for. So I mean, for example, it's not just something that's unique to foreign-born immigrants. It would be if you or I were to move to a new city, we would be equally as unfamiliar with the surroundings. There's just an extra layer of complexity here because sometimes there's some legal status issues. Sometimes there's there's family, there's kids involved. So there's a lot of unique things, and obviously I should mention there's also the language barrier, which provides probably the biggest hurdle for them to overcome when they're arriving in a new city. So there's a lot of unique needs that immigrants specifically have when arriving, and these centers try to like I said, they try to get them on their feet, make them comfortable in their surroundings, and also, most importantly, get them the access to those services that they need.
So I see then, as you were reading and preparing for the topic, then you picked out individual cases that you saw interesting procedures, interesting ways in which they've done it. But the basic needs are all over. I mean,
I'd say the basic, I mean, it runs the spectrum, they have everything from legal needs to having to do with getting immigration papers, citizenship needs, and also if there's criminal, if they're having to be involved in a crime of some sort, there's that. There's healthcare needs, accessing doctors, accessing just getting the medications they need really from pharmacies. There's language needs, ESL classes, getting access to that. Job needs, employment. Obviously, the language barrier creates another. It prevents them from accessing the normal job services that we would look for, and obviously, immigrants, newly arriving immigrants don't have the networks that we might have for looking for jobs. And also skills training, because a lot of immigrants arrive with skills that might not be complementary to the economy or the city in which they arrive. So they might have been doing something different in their home country, and now that there's no jobs in this city for that particular profession. So
then they'll have to do something else. Okay. Good. Now, can you tell us about the cases or the places that you found most interesting that you'll be presenting today? Then?
Sure. Yeah, I got a little ahead of myself there before. But the two cases I'm going to be presenting today are Richmond, Virginia, the Office of Multicultural Affairs.
Let's look at those slides.
Yeah, sure. So this is a public example of an organization that's based in the public sector of an immigrant welcome center. The next one I'll show when we get there is a private example. It's actually a nonprofit organization.
Okay. So private versus public. Okay.
So this office was established in 2004, initially as an office called the Hispanic Liaison Office. So it initially just focused on Latin American immigrants in Richmond. There was a what's the word I'm looking for? There was a demonstration process with Latin American immigrants where they started coming to city council meetings and started making a push for services in the Richmond area. And through this process, the city realized that we do need to somehow access this community and make sure this community has their needs being met. So from that, created the Hispanic Liaison Office and also this Latino Needs Assessment, which the city did in conjunction with Virginia Commonwealth University, which is located in Richmond. So through the needs assessment, they were able to determine the most pressing needs in the city and able to tailor their services towards those needs. So a few of the range of services they offer. Actually, if you want to go back to the last
first one?
page. Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. So since they've become the Office of Multicultural Affairs, this actually only happened last summer. They switched to not just representing the Latin American community, but to representing all communities located in
Last summer would be then summer of
2012.
Okay,
I'm
of
sorry.
2012, yeah.
So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that they have all their service offerings a little bit more. Sorry. Right there. So this is pretty much a summary of the services that they offer. They have it in Spanish and English. So as you can see, they're making sure they're accessing that Hispanic population and that they have access to all these services. And they do have interpreters for all other languages as well. So
actually, yesterday I received from the city of Urbana the brochure on recycling, and it was very interesting to me that the whole thing was done very well in Spanish and English.
Oh wow, that's great.
And they use some very good best practices. Being a professional interpreter and translator, I saw that they had really done an accommodation of bringing in what seems to work. And can I play with this translate button? It looks like you can put it in any language you want.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, they have it right there. So anything you need. I'm not sure all the languages at the top there, but I think they got a pretty good representation here.
Yes,
but it is nice to see, like you mentioned with Urbana, it's nice to see the cities taking that initiative and really trying to access and reach those populations.
Sorry, I interrupted you as to the services that were being
No,
offered.
not a problem. So as you can see, just I won't mention them all, but the interpretation, as I mentioned, an interesting thing they do is called the Imagine Festival. It's actually about halfway down there on the screen. It's a festival they put on every year to celebrate the different ethnicities and races that are part of the Richmond community. The different cultures that are there. So it's just an opportunity for the community to come together and really celebrate all the multicultural heritage that Richmond has in its community. So
good.
And then if you want to go to that next page.
The next page for Richmond, or the next page? Okay.
This one, perfect. So this page is basically just the online resources page. So in addition to the services that they offer, if you were to call, for example, if you want access to all those services that were listed there, you can just call the office. And I actually had a chance to speak with Tanya Gonzalez, the manager of the office, and she deals with all types of requests on a daily basis. And she's actually been there since the inception of the office, so she's very intimately familiar with the community. As you'll see here, they have a list of all the different ethnic and nationality organizations here.
We could certainly use that.
It's nice to have it all in one place. You can go to one place and you can find everything you need if you're a newly arriving immigrant in Richmond. So some few examples of all the resources. They have the events. They have just a list of Richmond area festivals that they've had in 2013. So that's helpful if you want to find all the ethnic festivals, and also the language, the multicultural and different language radio stations are there, and TV stations. So
okay.
So I think that pretty much
covers Richmond?
Yeah.
All right.
It's nice that it is a really nice office they have, though. They have 3 people on staff currently, and actually have funding for a 4th. So I believe they're going to be adding a 4th pretty soon.
And so the city is funding then that office.
The city is funding, yes. Their money comes straight out of the city budget.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
a little bit different from the other example, which is the private example of the private nonprofit organization, which is actually from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
And if you want to show do you want to show the video? That would actually probably give a perfect introduction to the...
we have a video ready for the audience, and so we're going to transfer to that.
My name is Maria Pimentel Gannon. At the Immigrant Welcome Center, I'm one of their natural helpers. I am also one of the trainers for new natural helpers. I'm originally from Mexico City, Mexico. I've been here for many, many years. Came to Chicago when we first came in. Most recently, I've been in Indianapolis for about 30 years. Shortly after the Immigrant Welcome Center opened, several people told me that this organization existed. It really appealed to me because it seemed to invite people who did something that I had been doing for a number of years. And for me, it was just a very natural fit. I was already doing what they were hoping to do with immigrants who came in. So it really appealed to me, and I went through the training and loved it and still love it, and I'm one of the trainers. But one of the roles of the natural helper would be to be a bridge builder between that individual or that family that they're trying to help and the service provider or whatever the need is. Many of the needs that they have and common needs that they have that I've helped with are some very basic needs. Where can I get some food? Emergency types of services. But a lot of what I do is interpreting for the person. So not only do I facilitate it and show them how to become independent and to be able to know how to get their needs met, but also sometimes interpreting. I think that the Immigrant Welcome Center will help Indianapolis become more aware, to open their eyes. And I think that the Immigrant Welcome Center can educate the rest of the Indianapolis area as to what the different cultures are like, what they're about, how they can work together, how they can help one another. Because it's not just a take-take, it's a give-and-take situation. One of the best ways to help the Immigrant Welcome Center accomplish what they're trying to accomplish is by supporting us financially. It will be put to good use.
All right, Billy.
All right.
That's a very nice video. Indianapolis, it looks like it's the real people. It's not just I don't know, a production.
Yeah, that was in the video that we just saw. It was an example of one of the natural helpers of the Indianapolis Immigrant Welcome Center. So that is the core program that this center is built around.
Okay, can you tell us more about natural helpers then?
Sure. These are individuals who are already established members of the immigrant community that they're serving. So by saying they're established members of that immigrant community, they're immigrants themselves, and they're from the country that they will be serving. So they're always matched with people from the same country. That way, it gives that sense of trust and that sense of familiarity. Even right as soon as you get off the plane, or however form of transportation you get here, you're talking to somebody that's from your country, that knows what you're going through, that knows the customs and culture and traditions of your country, and how to best integrate them into the Indianapolis immigrant fabric.
I keep thinking natural helpers reminds me of 100 years ago they were called mutual aid societies. In the Chicago area, I think the Erie House is still one of the original ones.
One of the settlement houses?
Yeah, settlement houses. In Philadelphia, I used to work a lot with Hayas, which was the Hebrew settlement and refugee and immigrant. And it was interesting for them because the boats did used to arrive there at the port, in Philadelphia, the White River and everything. So they would identify themselves with, I think, a blue skull cap. And so from the boat, you could see someone, a natural helper that was already there waiting, that would receive you and guide you so you wouldn't get lost in the crowd and things would happen. So
that's nice.
When you mentioned the plane, I thought to myself, the plane arriving, and if there was somebody down here that could identify.
Yeah, just move that exchange just into the 21st century.
A cell or a text number,
Yeah, right. Or a Facebook message, you never know these days. It was actually, I think the program was conceived in Seattle, because when I read about the history of this center in Indianapolis, the impetus of creating this center was a trip to Seattle by the former First Lady of Indianapolis. that she led. And initially they brought over the original 27 natural helpers all flew to Seattle to be trained by this organization in Seattle. They didn't actually mention the name of the organization in Seattle, but that's where they found out that's where they found out about the program, and that's that's where they got their start and just built from there.
That sounds really good.
And
so tell us more about that, because it being not public adds a dimension that now I need to conceptualize a little bit. So if it's not the city funding, who's organizing the natural helpers? Who's doing all that work?
So the organization has an internal organizational structure. There's a chairwoman that oversees the organization, and there's also a services, somebody that runs the services for the organization. It's a small organization, so they have the two people in the leadership, and then they have a few people that work alongside them. I don't know, they didn't specify how many people there are that work there, but they do have a bunch of, they have their network of natural helpers representing over 40 countries.
Yeah, even when you have volunteers, somebody's got to organize the volunteers, even if it's in a volunteer.
But you mentioned the funding structure is all private donations, so I believe they're heavily funded by several philanthropic corporations and organizations in Indianapolis. Yes.
Okay. I'm just gathering ideas as you talk.
Yeah, so I don't believe any of their funding is public funding from the city. They're completely a separate entity from the city of Indianapolis.
Okay, and they value it that much. I was looking about us, and then I think in another segment we saw the statistics of the immigrant impact on the local economy, and so they must value it. Okay.
So this is a graphic that just shows visually the 40 countries that are represented by the natural helpers in Indianapolis. So as you can see, it really spreads all across the world, into almost every continent across the world. So they're very well represented in Indianapolis, which helps them to pretty much find a placement for any newly arriving immigrant in the city.
It's interesting, just by looking at this map, that English-speaking countries aren't necessarily represented, and that language barrier is. I had a friend from Australia that moved to Utah who I remember he and his family suffered quite a bit the first year trying to adapt to American culture. Same language, people assumed they were integrated, but it took them a long time to feel like they knew what was going on around them.
Yeah, I think, from everything I've read about the program, it seems like the initial focus has been on non-English speakers, but that might be something in the future that they could look into. So. Yeah,
and so what am I looking at here?
This is, I wanted to just mention the fact that they are expanding. They have newly, starting this year, they have new branches in the neighborhood, so they're trying to reach their arms out into the community, try and access a lot more people, on a weekly basis. So they have a different place for each day where they're trying to.
I see. So
they
it's
hold
not a permanent
hours
office
each day.
Good.
Correct. So there'll be somebody there, and it lists the languages that they speak and the times that they'll be there. So really trying to, like I said, reach out and reach as many immigrants in the Indianapolis community that they can.
Well, that makes sense. I really like the adjustment to resources. Sometimes you just don't have the resources to run the whole thing. I know you wanted to mention this graphic before, and so before we end it, and so as we summarize what's going on, it would be very nice to see what applies here, how you see the lessons learned from those places applying to Urbana-Champaign. So tell us about this graphic, and then...
Sure. So a lot of people, when they hear, Richmond, Virginia, Indianapolis, Indiana, think, these are very big cities. None of these ideas would be applicable at the local level here in Champaign-Urbana. But when you break down the numbers, it really isn't that big of a difference. Taking the Champaign-Urbana metropolitan area as a whole, there's about 230,000. That's actually greater than the population of Richmond, Virginia. And if you look at the numbers here also, Champaign-Urbana area has and has had since 2000 a significant foreign-born population, more so than Richmond or Indianapolis. So irregardless of the population numbers, we have a larger share of our population is immigrant are immigrants than either Richmond or Indianapolis. So
And
it really
yeah.
tells you that there might be a need there for these services to be expanded to the
And it's
Champaign-Urbana
interesting
area.
because while the university would probably influence these numbers, we're a one university town or two with Parkland.
Right.
But each one of these cities are multi-university also, so it's not just the universities that would affect these numbers.
And I think there are aspects of both strategies that could probably be put on the ground here in Champaign-Urbana. I think right away you can get started on Natural Helpers program. That's not a very difficult thing to get started on, and I'm sure there are already organizations and people in the community who are already doing it informally.
Yeah, we already,
all it really takes is that that next step of putting it all together and organizing it to make sure we have this network of countries that we can refer people to when they arrive to the area. So,
I think so.
And in looking to more in the long term, you can get the municipalities involved. Maybe Champaign-Urbana would you mentioned the recycling program, putting it in Spanish. So maybe down the road they might recognize the need to have a liaison or some sort of office to serve these communities. So.
Well, Billy, this is very interesting because you're right. These services, these agencies already exist in this area. I think of the Refugee Center. I think of the language liaisons in both school districts. I think also of the school districts themselves who have been talking about immigrant parent center. And I think also that the CU Immigration Forum, in discussion with others, this week there's a new forum started for Spanish speakers in which they'll learn about healthcare and legal and whatever else, but on a regular basis rather than ad hoc. So what you bring to us is good models of something that is, while nascent in one case, looks like the establishment could really parallel ours. So I'd like to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's just a pleasure. Can you tell us more then where to find more information, and then?
Sure. If the viewers would like more information, the websites are up there for the City of Richmond. The office is up there, and also the link to the needs assessment that I shown if people would like to review that more in depth. Also, there's some websites and some videos for the Immigrant Welcome Center of Indianapolis, and they do have a Facebook page which has access to all their services as well. So.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure to host you here, and thank you very much for coming to CU Immigration TV.
Thanks again for having me.
Okay. And once again, you've been watching CU Immigration TV, in this case talking about immigrant-friendly communities with students who have now become the experts on this topic. And this is one of several segments, so we'd like to invite you to watch the others also. And we'll see you next time on CU Immigration TV.